Have you ever wondered why it is that so many have so little, while so few have so much? Have you ever wondered how it is that the powers that be can send young men and women to fight and die for causes we all know are linked exclusively to profit rather than matters of security? Have you ever wondered how it is that the super rich can evade the legal system altogether while ordinary people are incarcerated with ease for crimes many times less significant? Have you ever wondered why it is that the politicians and the powers that be always seem to be above reproach? The truth is, we already know the answer to these questions. It is patently obvious. The system of parliamentary government was set up to favour those that created it. A more important question really should be, why do we the people put up with this broken system? How is it that millions of people worldwide simply go about their business conforming to a system that restricts their civil liberties, steals their money, and sends its young to fight and die for corporate greed? How can 99% of the population be controlled to serve the 1% that is oppressing them? It seems ridiculous, doesn't it? Every day news reports tell us of dangers that could, if left unchecked, undermine our very way of life. These divisive and subversive techniques in use today are in fact the very same primeval mechanisms that have always been used since antiquity, and as was discussed earlier, was refined and widely implemented by Goebbels. These techniques are being deliberately triggered and enacted upon you every day of your life. The most prevalent of these is fear. Fear of terrorism, fear of swine flu, fear of communism, fear of other religious doctrines, fear of evolution, fear of your own bodies, fear of the economy, fear of the collapse of your way of life to any number of exterior influences. Not a day goes by when we are not told that the way we look, act, and even smell could do with some improvement. And almost as if by magic, there always seems to be a product to fulfill that very need for the bargain price of whatever. The truth is, the powers that be are playing the oldest games in the newest ways. For instance, manipulating common citizens by use of fear and coercion, reducing them to slaves by the use of the monetary system, and the resulting debt that follows. Think about it. How did people survive in years gone by? Most people at one time were farmers in one way or another. They lived off the land or the sea. But today, every square inch of land is owned by someone else, so you have to pay massive quantities of money just to live in the space you occupy. The mortgage is to most the single biggest debt that any working adult will ever enter into in their lives. On average, this debt takes 30 years to clear. That's the best part of a third of their lives, and it lands right in the best years, where you're young and healthy. And this makes sense. This is where you're expected to work to earn a living. But why should anyone be forced to do something they hate just to survive? If you don't have a choice, doesn't that make you a slave? Is it not fascinating how people are able to make exceptions for this in their daily discourse? Of course you need to work to survive. Who else is going to look after you? Why should anyone else work just to support you? And that would be a fair question, if it was a given that this is the only way society can operate. A hierarchical system relies upon there being those at the top above those underneath. This system simply cannot function if everyone is equal. So given this truth, is it any surprise that the majority are left with little, while a tiny exclusive minority seem to have more than they could ever need? There will never be peace, security, or freedom, while the acquisition of wealth is a driving force in our lives. It is the reason that the economy operates in the dysfunctional way it does. It is the reason that wars are fought. It is the reason that other nations are exploited or left to starve. Money is the root of most of the world's evils, because seemingly the more you have, the more you want, and the less you seem to care about others that have nothing. Think about it. When are the points in your lives when you have cared most about others that are starving? Is it when you have the good years, or is it when you are suffering yourself? How can you stomach that this system is acceptable? That a tiny portion of the world's population have everything, while the vast majority can't even afford to feed themselves? How is it that so many are left to starve, and the majority simply stand idly by? This is probably because we are constantly fed the line that it is hopeless to try and save the world. This feeling of helplessness maliciously and insidiously weaves itself into our psyche and saps our drive to change a system that looks unchangeable, to the point where most simply put it out of our minds and pass it off as one of those sad truths we all have to deal with. This is unacceptable. Remember these words well. Terrible things happen when good people do nothing, and terrible things are happening all over the world, many of which could be avoided if people just open their eyes and their hearts to this suffering. This is not a criticism levelled against the population at large. More, this is an effort to engage people, to work towards a global strategy designed to combat human suffering and eliminate mortality through starvation and/or lack of basic medical care.